Hi, I'm Nick Quincy. Thanks for watching this podcast. Today we're going to go behind the scenes with some of the relationships we've built here at PwC with our clients. I've got Mark Langrish from Experian. So let's get started. Maybe just tell us a little bit about what your role is now.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Mark Langrish. I'm the Group Chief Procurement Officer for Experian. I look after procurement, as you would expect, real estate, third-party risk management across the group, so on a global basis with teams all over the world. So anywhere from California to Sydney, basically. You name it, we're covering here, right?
So you get to travel a lot.
So I get to travel quite a bit, yeah. And I spend lots of antisocial hours in meetings sometimes because obviously it's quite hard to get everybody together. But it's great. There's some fantastic sort of cultural differences between the different regions we operate in and some great teams. So about 150 people altogether.
Across the world.
Across the world.
Okay. And Chief Procurement Officer, that sounds really grand.
Kind of buying stuff, right? It's like shopping on a grand scale.
That sounds like my ideal job.
Well, a lot of people say that. I guess the difference between Experian and many companies is most of what we buy isn't stuff. So we don't buy much in the way of goods. We buy some office stuff and some hardware and stuff like that. But the majority of what we're buying is service-based, yeah. So people talk to us about warehouses. We're talking data warehouses, not kind of logistics warehouses. So sometimes you get some quite funny LinkedIn commercial offers from warehousing companies wanting to store pallets of data. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So I'm guessing that you don't just fall into being a Chief Procurement Officer. So like what led you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'm an engineer, right? So I did engineering at uni, then went to work in the chemical industry for a while. So I worked oil refineries. I used to be the engineer on the world's second largest plant making cyanide. So we made huge amounts of cyanide, mainly for export, for gold mining and dyeing jeans and all sorts of exciting things. So there's a bit of a move, a bit of a kind of change from moving from heavy chemicals. Then I went to work for Coca-Cola, doing distribution, supply chain work. Then I went to Boots, and that was where I kind of transitioned a bit into doing commercial work. So I was looking after the distribution operations in the north for Coca-Cola. We weren't particularly, we weren't particularly clever at doing commercial work. You know, we're very good at buying raw materials and making pop, but not great at doing the commercials around distribution. So I got quite interested in that and spent quite a lot of time on that. In the process, became Eddie Stobart's biggest customer. So I spent lots of time negotiating about green lorries for those people that remember the big Eddie Stobart trucks. And from there, I moved to Boots. And I guess Boots wanted somebody to do commercials and to run the logistics category, but the logistics people didn't really trust purchasing people. So they needed a purchasing person who kind of had done logistics. And I kind of fitted into that mold.
Unique.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but certainly not many of us. So at that point, I moved to Boots to look after global logistics from a commercial perspective. And it was really from there I moved to Experian purely because they were in the same town that I was in Nottingham, and it looked like a great opportunity. So I joined two people, based in a little office in Nottingham. So 20 years later, yesterday was my 20th anniversary of being at Experian. 20 years later, I've got 150 people around the world. So it's been an amazing journey, both for me personally and for the company.
Amazing. And like, what do you love about it?
I think I love the variety of it, right? That we operate across over 30 countries. We have a consistent backbone of data and analytics, but we do different things in different territories. So we've got some really cool stuff that we do in some places that we don't do in other places. Got a consistent kind of approach to doing credit type work in most of those markets. But it's just, no 2 days are the same, right? Every day is a different day, and it could be anything. And procurement is one of those things, you buy everything, right? So we could be buying chocolate bars for a marketing event. We could be buying mainframe computers. And across the team, I've got people who are, got different skill sets across primarily data, which is what we buy a lot of, technology, and people-related things, so consultants and coders and developers.
Okay, and it wouldn't be fair to not ask, like, which are the bits you don't like?
What don't I like? Depends who's watching. I don't like long, cumbersome, tedious, repetitive process, which I guess is how we came to be here, right?
It is. So, yeah, very good segue. But actually, you and I met when you were negotiating with AWS on that agreement, and we can talk about it because it's kind of public domain.
It is, yeah.
What was it that kind of made you think, let's get PwC involved in this process?
So, from my perspective, we had an existing cloud relationship with AWS. We wanted to expand that. We wanted to go much deeper with them. we were heading towards a cloud-first strategy, exiting data centers and moving everything to the cloud. And so it was clear that the deal that we were going to do with AWS was going to be way bigger than any sort of more tactical deal that we'd done historically. So I think we were looking for somebody who could partner with us both to help us with the commercial negotiations and make sure that we covered what we needed to cover, but also help us with demand planning. So help sort of corral the business units around the world to kind of get a reasonable estimate of what they thought they were going to be able to commit to for 10 years. And 10 years is a very long time in the kind of world we're in.
Yes, we had that conversation.
We did, yeah. So, I mean, strat plans maybe 2-3 years out. When you start talking about 10 years, people look at you, but there's kind of tools and techniques that you brought to that where you were able to kind of help guide those conversations and get people to commit to a number that they were comfortable with without feeling they were being kind of pulled or pushed. And ultimately, directionally, it was a good number. And it ended up being the single biggest deal Experian's ever done globally. So in the history of Experian. So
and you were front and center.
I was front and center with a great support team.
Brilliant.
But great fun. I mean, a great deal to do, and a great set of people we were with at PwC, great set of people we were with at AWS. It was really good.
It's good to hear that there was that benefit of the work with PwC, and you and I kind of got chatting quite a lot during that process. And one of the things we talked about was that AWS culture of working backwards and how that overlaps with the PwC culture of like starting with the client problem or the outcome or the ambition, which kind of led us to think, is there something we could do together with Experian and AWS and PwC in the same room? And you came up with this idea of, maybe there's some processes we could look at together. Can you maybe talk us through why that excited you and what was good about having us all in the mix?
So I think, I mean, you talk about the working backwards thing, the kind of Amazon ethos, the principles. I got really interested in that. So obviously, I kind of thought from a negotiation perspective, learning how Amazon operate, especially when they choose to publish it publicly, was probably quite a good move in order to be able to negotiate with them. And actually, it proved to be so. Understanding what makes them tick, understanding how they go about their interactions with customers and how they approach their business was really fascinating. And it's some relatively simple principles, but actually things that you could really bring into your own world. And so I got quite excited about this. I'd read the book. I'd taken my leadership team through it and challenged them on some of the things, where we could be much more productive as a group and come to much more quickly made decisions, come to decisions that were much more customer centric. We're talking about our customers being the internal customers within the company. And I think we decided at that point that, you talked to me about AWS sort of principles because you obviously worked there. You talked about how PwC were looking at this sort of methodology. And I think from my perspective, I thought it'd be really exciting to try and solve what was a business process kind of challenge that we had in terms of going through a process that was taking far too long, had far too many touch points, far too much repetition, and really sort of re-engineering that, but re-engineering it using a kind of facilitated approach and using a kind of Amazon stroke, PwC type approach to that.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons I joined PwC was because there's an overlap with the AWS culture and the PwC culture, and that you lead with the customer obsession. But I did find when I was at AWS doing those working backwards was great, but there was a bit missing in terms of that. What's the engagement strategy? How does it impact the business model? What the regulatory impacts? So I think from my perspective, bringing the three of us together, we kind of got over some of those hurdles. Did you see the benefit of having all of us in the room together? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I like the PRFAQ kind of approach they have, where they, what would you want the press release to say, and what would you want the FAQs to say? Which you think, well, this is around an internal set of processes that touch a lot of employees in Experian, but potentially aren't the sort of thing that you would launch in a market to, excite the general public. But I still think it's a really valid way of looking at it. Like, how would you say we've done a great thing here? We've managed to fix this problem. This is what we've done. This is how it'll be different for you. And here are the kind of FAQs of how it'll work. And I think it's easy to get a bit carried away in the kind of hype of that and the excitement of that, remembering, to your point, that in many markets we operate, we are also a regulated business. So, you have got some constraints. So I think that combination of the kind of theoretical thinking big and going hard and the big kind of perhaps marketing-led, outcome that an AWS or an Amazon product might have, as well as the practical, combined with, I guess, the PwC overlay of, how can we make sure this is still kind of compliant? How do we make sure we have what we need from a regulatory perspective? I think it was really good. It was quite an interesting kind of triangle of kind of Experian, PwC, and AWS, and that kind of positive and useful tension as people moved around where they were feeling sort of more comfortable about.
There was definitely tension, but you're right.
There was definitely tension.
And I'm going to say thank you, because you were kind of our guinea pig in terms of doing this with clients. So we got a lot of really kind of good feedback, both constructive and positive. So that's been really helpful for us. What are you kind of excited about going forward? Not necessarily just with the workshop, but for Experian, AWS, PwC.
AWS is so at the forefront of technology, and their work on AI, on analytics, on data. I mean, we're a data analytics company. We're very much AI powered. This stuff is just very much part of our DNA now. And it's really interesting when people talk about these things as new and exciting things. To me, they're kind of things that have been in our world for a long time, but they just continue to evolve, and they evolve at a pace, that really traditional, I guess, business process re-engineering type methods don't really work for anymore. Because things happen too quickly. By the time you've been through a 2-year transformation, the world's done 20 years of transformation. So effectively, you're never going to catch up. So I think these kind of ways of tackling business problems, like the kind of methodology that you guys brought to this, I think are the way that, agile, I guess you would call it to an extent, but agile with a kind of, broad and bold, problem to solve.
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting you bring up AI. It wouldn't be any kind of technology podcast.
It wouldn't.
If we weren't talking about AI.
We stopped talking about blockchain. We're now talking about AI.
I know, that's the benefit. One of the things that we've kind of observed is a lot of people are kind of going, there's a business process that has humans in it. We want to use AI to kind of replicate or change it. But actually what you're saying is the benefit of this workshop was actually we're going to redesign that whole business model. So rather than just reimagine or reinvent something that's happened with humans, it's actually how do we do this better with technology? But I think it was kind of looking at how you get the best of the team you have.
I guess you're trying to optimize the output rather than replicate the method.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
So I guess from my perspective, we're looking for the best outcome, the fastest outcome. We're looking to fast finish, not fast start necessarily, but get to a place quickly that takes advantage of the technology we've got, and also I think continues to review what's happening and how things are changing, because it's not a kind of fix and forget for 5 years. Things continue to evolve, and if you don't evolve with it, others will come and challenge you to evolve.
Yeah, and that kind of data-based, service-based organisation, you really do need to stay kind of cutting edge.
Totally.
Thank you very much, Mark, for being here today. It's been great to chat to you. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope we can see you again.